What's up, guys? I'm tieronecollections. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about PSA population report, what that means, and how does popularity and pop affect the pricing of cards.
I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stat.
So the first card I'm going to look at, I'm going to compare the two. It's the Lugia V Altart from Silver Tempest and the Giratina V Altart from Lost Origin. So there's many things to take into account, and to be honest, if you're looking up pops, you do the PSA mobile app. It's much better. But for this purpose, I am going to be on the desktop so I can record this. So right here, highlighted, we have the Full Art Lugia V. This is the English. I'm only going to be talking about English. We have a total pop of 36,000, just about to be 37,000, with a pop of 21,000 in tens. That is an astronomical number, to be completely honest, for a modern card like this. So there's multiple things that go into that. The quality, right? Generally speaking, Sword and Shield towards the latter half was pretty solid quality. There wasn't really many issues on the back of the cards. Speaking of like Brilliant Stars, Lost Origin, Astral, Silver Tempest, and Crown Zenith really didn't have any issues that were super notable. Post Fusion Strike era. It seems like they upgraded it. We really only have to worry about centering, so that definitely ups, the 10 rate when we're talking about pretty solid quality, right? The other thing with that is that there's just not that many altarts in terms of Silver Tempest and Lost Origin. I will say Lost Origin has two pretty sought after ones in Giratina and Aerodactyl, where Silver Tempest pretty much only has the Lugia. That being said, is we're looking at a Lugia that has 21,000 in 10s and 12,000 in 9s. So that's just a much higher pop. And then when we go to look at the Giratina right here, we have a total pop of 19,000. So it is much less. It's about half of what the total graded population for the Lugia is. And we only have 8,500 tens. And we have just about the same in terms of 9s. So that, again, could be due to quality, but I think generally speaking, they're about the same. I'm pretty sure Silver Tempest is definitely a step above. But in regards to that, how does that affect the pricing? So that's what we're going to take a look at. Okay, so looking at the Lugia, its market price is about $1,200, 11 to 12. And this is actually really interesting. And about March, this was about 700. And honestly, last December of 24, I sold this same Lugia card for like 500 every day of the week. I think that's interesting because obviously Pokemon kind of blew up, around the Prismatic Evolutions time frame. But I think this Lugia gives us a really good insight on pricing because it's pretty easy to pull in the grand scheme of things because there's just not that many altarts in Silver Tempest, and so is the Giratina. But with good quality and all that, it's not the best Lugia in the entire world, in my opinion. It's a very cool card, don't get me wrong, but it's not like, next level. Everybody wants it. Everybody wants it because it's a popular Pokemon, right? But when you look at the Giratina, we're talking, this sold yesterday for almost $2,400. There's some things about that. Lugia is probably objectively a more popular Pokemon than Giratina, but we're looking at a very popular, that really kicked off this artist crave and everything that people have for this specific artist, with the Magikarp, the Seismitoad, all that craziness that happens. This Giratina kind of started that. This Giratina has been expensive from day one. Obviously, it's went up since then, but it had been, I think it's been over $400 since its release, raw. So there is some few things to take into account there. I do think that the popularity of this Giratina card specifically has a lot to do with why it's so expensive. But when we look at the pop, it makes sense. So when we see the Lugia kind of randomly shoot up, do I think it's probably a $1,200 card? Probably not. Because when we see there's 21,000 tens, almost, 21,000 tens, like, there's just never going to be a time where you aren't able to get this card. I could easily see it being like an $800 card. That makes sense to me. Top hit in the set. And Silver Tempest is getting older. Like, it's not being printed anymore. Whereas Lost Origin, we're talking about basically a third of the amount of tens that are Lugia is the Giratina. You know what I mean? And it's double the price. So if the Giratina price is correct, then the Lugia price has to be wrong, in my opinion. Or vice versa. So I think that's something definitely interesting when we look at the pops there. I'm surprised that the Lugia is steadily up there, just because I just don't think it's nearly as popular. There's 3 times the amount of 10s of the Lugia Altart than there is the Giratina, but I think that they are pretty comparable, and I hope that gives you a little bit of insight there. So I'm going to pick a few more examples, and we're going to dive into this a little bit deeper. Real quick, interrupting the video, if you haven't already, please join the Discord down below in the description. If you become a YouTube member, you'll get access to all the private channels in the Discord and get a ton of one-on-one help with me. I'm basically available 24/7 unless I'm sleeping, but as soon as I wake up, I get back to all the messages that I missed. If you need help finding clean cards, I post eBay listings of clean cards, some of the big ones that are really hard to find. I post multiple in there daily. So, join the Discord down below, become a YouTube member, and then DM me on Discord with your YouTube name, and you'll be added to the private channels. Back to the video. Alright, when we're talking about population report, we gotta talk about the most graded Pokemon card at PSA, and I believe of any card graded at PSA. This is the #1 card that's been graded. The Pikachu, Gray Felt Hat. We all know the card. This is a really, really interesting card to take into account when we're talking about Pop. There's a total of 94,000 graded. Absolutely insane. We have a pop of 43, close to 44,000, and then in 10s, and then in 9s we have about 42,000. So, with that, that's over double the Lugia that I just showed you, and we still see this card selling every day at a massive premium. Now, this is really interesting. I'm not sure why this is. Partially, I mean, I picked up, it was about a year ago, September of 24, October of 24 maybe. I picked up like 20 of these for like $60 when they came out, and I graded all of them. Was selling them all day. All the 10s going for like 300. The 9s were going for about 100. All day, no problem. And then when the pops started to get up there, I had a few that I sat on, and I sold them immediately. Once I didn't realize exactly how many there were then, I just think it's really interesting that though this is the most populated card graded with PSA, right, that it is still selling at the premium that it is. This is significantly, like, out there, and to me it doesn't make any sense. There's a reason I sold all of it. Once the pop got to 10,000 total, I was like, yeah, there's no way this thing holds its value. This is going to be like $150 promo, 100%. So I sold all of mine, and lo and behold, this thing, I mean, you could see, here's a good snapshot. May, it was about 800, and now here in October, one sold today for 1,700. This card is just insane to me, why this is. I think it just really has to point to popularity. When you have a popular card that most people want, it doesn't matter if the pop is unlimited. If people are holding and consuming the card, right? If they're out there in the market to buy, it doesn't really matter. If you have a low pop, ugly card that nobody wants, it could be super rare, and to those top tier collectors, that'll mean something to them. Like when I say low pop, like under 100, or under 50 in a 10, or even some of those ones that are pop like 5 or whatever. Those top tier collectors will pay that premium for it. But when you open up the general market to everyone that collects Pokemon, the PSA 10 Gray Felt Hat Pikachu, it's the #1 Pokemon, the most popular Pokemon in the history of Pokemon. It's the guy, it's the poster boy, so it does kind of make sense. That popularity and, that liquid card can really overshadow the pop in a lot of cases, and this is obviously the perfect example of that. So, okay, for example, we also have the Heracross EX Full Art from Furious Fists. This is a pop 165 total. The 10 pop is 4. That's insane. What that means is, this Heracross EX, I buy them when I see them if they're decently looking. I just like Heracross personally, but there's only 4 10s. Luckily, I found one on eBay. There is one up on eBay right now. I have been watching it for a couple days now, but you can see now that the guy's asking $4,500, which is completely reasonable, in my opinion, for a Pop 4 card. Like I said, Heracross isn't the most demanding and market pushing type of Pokemon. Now, if that was a Charizard, an Umbreon, a Gengar, that's going to be way, 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 way higher. Just Heracross isn't the most desirable Pokemon. It's not the coolest card in the world either, even of Heracross, personally. Furious Fist is just not a very popular set either. Even even now. So there's a reason that it's not an insane premium. But we can look at cards like Team Aqua's Kyogre and Team Magma's Groudon, and we can see that kind of play out for much more popular Pokemon and popular cards. Okay, so just to drive this home again, we're looking at the Team Aqua's Kyogre right here. It's a 3,200 total pop, close to 33. We have a pop 11 and a 10, 229 and a 9, 713 and an 8, 982 and a 7, 697 and a 6. Like, this is super. The fact that, you know, a 7 is the most common grade is insane for a card like this. And then we scroll down to Groudon right here. We got about the same total pop. We have 20 and a 10. So we have 9 more Groudons and 10s. 230 and a 9, 692 and an 8, 945 and a 7, and so on and so forth. These cards are going to command a massive premium. These are super sought after cards, and they're just insanely hard to grade. Even if the quality was better, just the front of them is really hard. It's not textured like some of the new full arts and stuff like that, so it's definitely harder to do. I've seen this sell very high, but like, you're not even going to be able to find these sales just on eBay. Nobody's going to sell these. Specifically, if you have both of them, they're just going to be sitting on them. It's just so low pop that we're just not going to get any sales data with it. So that's what low pop can do, and that's what it can command in high prices as well. So keep a lookout for some of those. Do some research. There's tons out there. You could even grade pop 1s. I mean, just usually it's because it's not the most popular thing in the world. But there is something to say about, you know, low pop stuff. Whether it's because it's hard to grade or because nobody graded it, you know, they forgot about it, and it's kind of just in that one small pocket of the community. So do with that information what you will. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed. I hope that this isn't super confusing. The point that I'm trying to drive home is that, yes, pop is a lot when it talks about driving the price of something and where that price is going to be long term and even short term in some cases. When we look at things like the Gray Feltap Pikachu, we have to understand that it's just a liquid card, and there's so much demand there that it doesn't really matter what the supply is, that price is going to stay where it is. Now, it might drop down here, and you know, if Pokemon starts to hit, you know, a more quieter spot in its life cycle. But for now, it's going to stay where it is. Whereas we see other things that are way overhyped and then way underhyped, you know. So that was the point that I was trying to prove there. I hope I answered all your questions. If I didn't answer your question, please drop a comment down below with whatever I missed. And then please join the Discord down below. It's free to join. If you want to become a YouTube member, then you get access to the private channel and all the benefits that come with that. I would appreciate it if you would join the Discord. Leave a like, subscribe. I thank you guys a lot for watching the video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.
I'm the MVP. Now I feel like Russell. Feel like John Morant. Need a triple double. Told him check the stats. Yeah, I